Hey y'all, it's Michael from Hawkins Joyful Bees. So today we are in Springville, where I'm going to let my dad tell you exactly what we're going to be doing today.
Hey guys, so today we're going to be placing honey supers on our hives here. And we've been trying to get up here for the past week and a half, and it's just either been raining or too cold, or we didn't have enough time. But today, being the day before Easter, we finally got a chance to get up here. So we're going to take these boxes that we've got down here. They have drawn comb. We're going to place a box on each hive. We have 4 hives here. We're going to place a box on each hive, and so within the next few weeks to a month or so, month and a half, the bees will be gathering nectar, and they'll bring in and they'll store the excess up here in these honey supers. And then around June or July, we should be able to come back here and pull off the excess. So that's what we're going to be doing today. This year's honey season.
Let's go play in some bees, y'all. Alright, y'all, so we're here down at the hives now. As you see, Shane's walking over to them. There's our 2 hives there. If you see the yellow tote, we keep extra supplies at this apiary because we're about an hour, maybe hour and a half away from home. So it's easy for us to keep all of our tools separate. And we do that at each bee yard. We have a place at each bee yard that all of our tools are separate, so we don't cross-contaminate anything. And that protects our hives as well. Shane, some of our supers, that's our swarm trap we're gonna put up. And these are the last 2 hives. The last video we did, these are those 2 hives. They're doing really good today. There's my brave, handsome son down here, no bee suit on. Could be because Mom stole his jacket. There we go. Isn't this pretty? All right, Shane, what are we going to do?
Okay, so we're going to start off with getting to these 2 boxes here. And
these are the new boxes.
At the top, they're both empty. I don't have any frames or anything, so we're just going to set them to the side. And we're going to go ahead and add some honey supers. But before I do that, I'm going to go through and make sure that everything looks good.
Pretty active today.
Make sure that the queens
Yeah, they are.
There.
They sure are pretty. And then we're going to hang up a swarm trap later. Catch us some wild bees, or catch our own swarm.
I forgot that I already
You never
brought
know.
a hammer and nail. It's already ready. All you got to do is hang it up there.
Where?
Over here on this tree.
Well, apparently Michael's going to hang up the swarm trap. So he's going to walk in front of my camera. There he goes. Yay! Normally what Shane does, which I'm sure he's already done, is let me show you. So if you've seen this little baggie on the ground, a little baggie with the hammer on top of it, we carry stuff for the swarm trap. So we have, I think it's lemongrass oil that we put in there, and we have a frame in there, an old frame, because what that does is it attracts the bees. So when the bees swarm, they'll find this and they get attracted to it. And you see Michael hanging it up. We have a nail in the tree that keeps us a little bit easier for us hanging them. It's not very deep into the tree, so it doesn't damage the tree as badly. We don't want to damage our trees because this is our property. Actually, it belongs to Shane and his brother, so it's a beautiful piece of property. Here we go.
Looks like we've had a little bit of wind damage. The wind knocked off our sign.
Blew down my sign.
And
our pollen trap
over there
is gone. I don't know where it's at.
Front half of it got blown off.
Yeah, there it is. Blue thing hanging in the tree. But part of it's kind of gone. I think, though, there were tornadoes or really bad storms up this way a few days ago, so I'm glad everything's doing good. No, I didn't bring any gloves. I may regret that because the bees hate the cell phone and they have a tendency to come and snip at it, and I normally end up getting stung. But I won't be down here very long. Unfortunately, I have pretty nasty reactions when I get stung. So I don't get into the hive as much as I would like.
I
Definitely
have
not
changed of
without
plans.
being fully suited.
We're going to
What's-
start off over here on this one, the biggest one.
Okay. These two hives, I think this is the second year they've been here. Second. Is that right? Second year?
Well, we had one die.
Well, we did have one die on us, yeah.
Yeah, just move them closer.
I'm going to try to walk that way, but I didn't wear blue jeans, and I will get stung if I'm not careful. And normally Shane packs my full suit, and for some other reason we forgot to do that today. So I won't get real close to the hives. They are beautiful. Look at the, see if I can zoom in a little bit. You all see that? Wow, look at them coming out. They are just doing wonderful. I love that. I love watching them come out and watching the bring pollen in on their legs. It's just really, truly beautiful. We've been, when we first started keeping bees, we would sit outside in front of the hive and we would watch them bring the pollen in and sit there and drink a glass of iced tea. It's really nice to do. If you see the number, we did a video about why we number our hives, and this way we keep track of everything. It's always good. So two bigger hives here. I'm gonna scoot back a little bit more, because once Shane starts getting into them, they get a little fussy. They don't like it. And even though I'm in Michael's bee jacket, it's Michael's and not mine. I'm a lot bigger than Michael, so I need mine. And I definitely do not have on the pants to be in the bee yard. I should have wore blue jeans. Y'all see that? See them just swarming around over there? Isn't that awesome? They are so pretty. I really like watching them. It's really peaceful. Alright, here we go. We're going to watch Shane for a little while. So you may see a lot of our bee smoker. And for those that you don't know, the smoke tends to keep the bees a little calmer. So when he first opens the hive, you'll see him smoke them a little bit. That's just to keep them a little calmer. Or if they start getting really wild up, he'll smoke them a little bit. Kind of keeps them calm. Bees don't like it when we get into their hives, and we have to keep them healthy. We look to make sure there's brood, and the brood is basically your eggs and your baby bees. We make sure that the queen is laying eggs. She's definitely there laying eggs. If you don't see eggs, you probably don't have a queen, and that's a problem. And each time Shane gets in the hive, he does try to find the queen just to make sure she's okay. And many times, most of our hives have been marked, or not hives, but our queens have been marked. Each year is a different color. I think this year is white, but don't hold me to that. So they're easy to find in the hive. Shane doesn't have to mark her. He can find her pretty quickly without her being marked. I, on the other hand, would have a hard time finding her if she's not marked. She's a lot bigger than the other bees, but when you get thousands of bees and they're all crawling around in a hive, I have a hard time distinguishing them. But he's the true beekeeper here. I'm just the cheerleader holding the video camera. How's that, y'all? Does that work?
Looks like they're bringing in quite a bit of nectar.
Good, good.
That part's good.
You can see that in a frame if you pulled out the frame. Maybe Shane will bring one over and let us see it, where it has the nectar, the pollen, and the honey on it. But the nectar is just cells within that frame that are clear. And then the pollen really does, it just looks like pollen is colorful. And then the honey are cells that have honey in it that's been capped over. We love the honey. Look how pretty. They are definitely pretty.
I'm going to get a close-up.
Let's see what we got here.
Might be able to see.
Okay, I'm going to see if I can zoom in because I don't want to get too close. I'm going to walk up closer though, see all the bees on there.
You see it glaring in the sun,
Nice.
the nectar.
The bees. Okay, so you see the orange down in there? That's pollen. And I'm not getting a good shot of the nectar on there, but it doesn't really show it very good on my camera. Sorry guys, I'm gonna have to back up because now I have a bee flying around my head. Let's see if I can't get our camera adjusted again. They don't like the camera, and I don't have gloves on. But that's basically what we're going to be doing today. Shane's going to go through every hive, and he'll do this. It'll take us a couple of hours. Now, we don't do this every time we get into a hive. There are times when we're in the hive looking for one thing only, for one goal only, and then we don't worry about the rest. But today, because we're not up here every week, when we come up to the Springville bee yard, we go through them pretty thorough. So we check for, Shane will check for hive beetles, or the hive beetles under control. Pretty soon, if he hasn't already treated them we can't treat them now because we're putting supers on. We won't treat them with the supers on. But they'll go through and really thoroughly check that hive to make sure everything is, the queen's laying, lots of nectar and lots of pollen. So it's a good thing. It's a sign of a healthy hive. But to do that, it can take us a couple of hours because you see he's on the top hive. So he's on the top one. Then there's the bottom one. The bottom one is normally where the queen is at, and that's normally where most of your brood is at. So what Shane will do is he'll put a queen excluder on this top one so the queen can't go up into the super. So the supers, we call them honey supers. It's just basically a box just like what you see now, but it's nothing but for the honey. So the queen can't get up in there and lay eggs. So when we go to process the honey, we're not getting a lot of eggs. We're just getting honey. So that's the main reason for that. And that's the reason why people will separate, put the supers on top and make it where the queen can't go up, because she can't go through the holes of a queen excluder. She's a lot bigger than a normal honeybee, so she's a little too chunky to go through there. Yeah, I like that. She's chunky. She's not really chunky, but she's too chunky for an excluder. That's kind of what we'll be doing for the next couple of hours. I'm not going to take you along the whole time because that's just too much. Me and Michael kind of videotape. Michael helps Shane out a lot more probably than what I do. He helps carry the hives. He helps many times he'll do a lot of videotaping and a lot of pictures. So he helps quite a lot. And with this particular bee yard, what we will do is we'll take pictures of everything before we leave, and we'll note everything before we leave. That way, if we get home, like I don't remember if I did this, we can go back and look at the pictures, and we know that was done. But we try to notate every single hive. We notate how the queen is doing, how the hive is doing. If that hive has swarmed, if there's a new queen, we keep a running track of every hive and every queen. I don't know if you all remember the video we did where we lost a queen that was our favorite, and we'd had her I think 3 years. She came from my sister Rita's house. So my sister Rita, we caught a wild swarm at her house, and that queen came from there. And she was just an amazing queen, and we actually split that hive multiple times and got a lot of babies from her, a lot of queens from her, because we really liked how she did it. So we were pretty sad when she died. But when a queen gets older, they don't lay as often. Most beekeepers will actually kill the queen and replace her every year. We don't really do that. If the queen is doing good, we're pleased. Now, if the hive is really aggressive, really mean, there are times that it will merit to kill the queen and replace her. because the hive kind of takes after that queen. Kind of like you say, you hear people say if mom's not happy, the whole house ain't happy. It's the same way with the queen. They kind of take on her personality. So if that's a really aggressive hive and the queen is there, and there are times we will do away with her and replace her. If the hive has no queen, the queen is left, and they're queenless for whatever reason, numerous reasons that could happen, that hive can become very aggressive. We did have a few hives at our home. They were the Nooks, the baby hives that did that. And I could not step outside of my door without getting bees on me, really mad bees, getting stung. That was probably the only time that I was ready to get out of beekeeping. It was pretty bad. But once they get the queens back, they're pretty happy. I can say we've never had to buy a queen. Shane's gotten pretty good at taking splits, which basically means we would take some of these frames with the babies. Remember, the most of the brood or the babies is in the bottom box. And we would take some of those brood and we would put it in a separate box, and they would make one of those eggs into a queen. Shane would have to explain that a little bit better, because that egg has to be so many days old before they can do that. So that we've done a lot of that. That way we don't have to buy our own queens. We raise them. So, and we don't raise them, we don't do a whole lot of it, but we will do it for ourselves. Probably not a bad idea to do, is it? Raise them and sell them, but I don't really do that. They are lots to do in a hive.
Queen is not in the top.
Yeah, remember
She's down below the bottom somewhere.
Remember I told you most of the time you'll find the queen at the bottom. Not all the time. There are times we do find her in that top box. But remember, that's not our honey super. That's a part of the hive. That's a part of the hive that we overwintered her. So that would be part of the actual hive, which the honey super is too. But that's one we only put on when it's time to make the honey. And then we take it off after we've pulled all the honey. We take them off, we clean them up, and we get them ready for next year. And then we get the bees ready, what I call putting them to bed for the winter. They don't go to sleep, they don't hibernate. But we get them all down into 1 or 2 boxes. We make sure they have food. That's kind of the process. But this time of year is probably the busiest time for every beekeeper out there. This time of year is pretty busy. So if you have more than one bee yard like us, you're staying pretty busy. Even if you just have one bee yard, you're still staying pretty busy. But this is one of our production yards. This one, and then we have 2 more production yards. One is at my mom's, one is at my sister Tammy's house. And then at our house, we call that our Nook Yard. So remember, the Nook is basically a very small hive. I call them baby hives. Many times we turn those into production hives. Sometimes we will use those hives as resources for the production hives. And this year I think we're going to sell 4 of them. So we sell 4 of the Nooks. And that way people who are interested in getting into beekeeping have a good fresh start, because they're hives that... they're Nooks that we overwinter, so they're pretty strong when they get sold. That's always good. But my house is mainly just the babies, and there's quite a few little Nooks there. I think right now we're up to 27 hives. I don't think that, not all of those are production hives. Some of those are our Nooks. And our goal is to end this bee season with 50. So that'll happen by the swarm traps we talked about. Remember Michael's swarm trap he just put up? Swarm trap right there. So we'll catch wild swarms, and that will get us more hives. We will split some hives. That will get us more hives. So our goal this year is to end with 50 and then go into next spring with a lot more production hives, as we seem to sell out of our honey pretty quickly. Probably within 6 months we are totally out of honey. Everybody wants honey. I love the honey. I love the creamed honey. It's become my favorite. And see, he's in the bottom. And I don't know if you can see it, but he's moving everything from that bottom, and she's moving him over to another box off to the side. This is kind of his way of kind of keeping check on it. And if you see, took out the first frame and he laid it there up against the box. Some people have a holder, a frame holder they'll put it on. That just kind of frees up that box when you can get in there a little bit easier. The hive tool, we have to have that because the bees take what's called propolis. Some people call it bee glue. Some pretty strong stuff. And they will glue that. They'll glue down the frames. They'll glue down the boxes. And the only way we can get them apart is to pry them apart with the hive tool.
Found the queen.
That's awesome. He's going to show us the queen. Is she marked white? This year she marked white.
Yeah.
All right, see, now I can see her because she's marked white. Let me see if I can see her right there in the camera. See her in my camera right there. She see that white dot on her head? That's, I don't know if I can zoom up a little better for you. There she is. Right there she goes. That's our queen. I love seeing the queen because I think the queens are just beautiful. Now when they first hatch, when a queen first hatches, she's not that long. They're actually pretty small, and then they go on what they call their mating flight. Believe it or not, they mate in the air, which is kind of cool, but that's what they do. They mate up in the air, and then they come back to the hive and they begin to get bigger because they've been mated. So that's pretty cool. It's always good and a great day when you find your queen. And you normally tell how well a queen is by how many eggs she's laying. Is she laying in a specific pattern of laying her eggs? Those are always good signs of a good queen. And another good sign is how aggressive is that hive. This hive is actually not bad. It's actually not bad at all. Now you'll see them flying around more because Shane is in the hive and they do not like us to be in their hive. It'd be like me coming into your home and moving stuff around and messing with stuff. And that's kind of how they feel. They don't like it. Can't blame them. But we'll say Shane is the doctor, the RN of hives. So he has to go in and check them and make sure they're good and they don't need any treatment. So he kind of gets to be he's an RN in real life, but he gets to be an RN to the bees too. It's kind of cool. He kind of gets to go in and check how they're doing. And we'll do that. This is 2 hives here, then the 2 hives over the ones with the new ones. And we'll do this with every hive. He'll go through them like this. It's really amazing. And they're pretty active. They're pretty full. I love looking at the frames. I think it's just amazing that a bee can build up honeycomb like that, build up cells like that, and fill them in with pollen and nectar and honey and eggs. It just, only God could create something so amazing as a bee. They're just amazing, amazing. I absolutely love the honeybee. I don't like getting stung though, because that hurts me quite badly. As Shane will have bees crawl up his arm, and we'll have bees in the car, and Shane will put his finger out and the bees will crawl up on the finger like a trained bird or something. It's really weird. He don't get stung a whole lot. I can't prove it, don't even know if it's right, but I kind of think that the bees know that Shane is the beekeeper. I think they know his scent. They know the queen's scent, so I think they know Shane's scent too. I do like these bee suits. These are the ventilated bee suits. So Shane's is a full ventilated bee suit. The jacket I have on that's Michael's is a ventilated bee suit, so that way nobody gets too hot. When you're working out in a bee yard, and especially in the middle of summer, you're grateful for the ventilated bee suits. The normal bee suits, you feel like you're melting. And these still you get hot, but they're not as bad. And we bought neck fans. I don't know what you call them, but they're at Walmart as seen on TV. And me and Michael will wear the neck fans under our bee suits because that really helps us too. You see how they're getting a little bit more wild up there. And then he's going to smoke them. Kind of helps calm them down a little bit. And the first time I got in a hive by myself, it was a small Nook. They did that, and they were all over me, and I don't handle it very well. I got a little panicky, and Shane had to take over. So I don't really get in the hives a whole lot. I like to watch. I like to learn. I like to watch Shane do it, point things out. But I don't really get in them a whole lot. To get out and do it by myself, I probably could if I had to, but I'm so grateful that I don't have to. I have Shane. Isn't that pretty? So what did you just put down?
Queen Excluder.
Did you see that? Can you hold it back up?
Keep her down there.
Yep. Remember we said the Queen Excluder basically looks like a wire box thing. Like a window frame type thing, and she can't get up through there, so that's a good thing. That way she can't get up into the top into the supers and lay eggs, because we don't want her up in our supers laying eggs. We don't want our honey full of eggs. We want those frames for nothing but honey, and that's why we do that. And you never put on a super before it's really times, as if we had to still feed the hives. If you remember the last video, we still had some of the hives still needed to be fed. So you don't put on the super when you're feeding hives, because then you're really not getting the true honey from your wildflowers and your trees. Then you're kind of getting sugar water, and we don't want that. So we take everything, all the feeders off. We don't feed them, and we don't put the supers on until we know that hive is bringing in pollen, bringing in nectar, so they don't starve to death. We don't want them to starve. But when they're strong enough and we can take all of that off and they're healthy, that's what we do. And really, that's what every beekeeper does. I don't know a beekeeper that would, personally, I don't know one that would put supers on while feeding a hive. We even have our bee yard at my mom's house. We even asked them to take down their hummingbird feeders, so we don't get any of that into our honey. So we're pretty picky on that kind of thing. We plant flowers, we'll plant certain trees, certain things around the bee yards that we know the bees like. We just planted, I want to say 6 BB trees at my mom's, and she has some peach trees, and then she plants all kinds of wild flowers that the bees and the butterflies like, so that's always awesome. So if you ever interested in helping bees, plant things that they will eat. Like, they love BB trees, they love the red bud. There's certain wildflower seeds that you can buy that the honeybees love. I don't like buying anything that I have to replant. I like buying things that are going to come up every year. And they love dandelions. When you start seeing the dandelions come up, that's a good indication it's bee season time. We actually have a sign at the end of our driveway that says, pardon the weeds, we're feeding the bees, because we won't mow for a while. You'll have everybody out mowing and cutting down those beautiful dandelions, but we're the crazy beekeepers that keep them there as long as we can, so those bees get a lot of good pollen and nectar coming in. You see the orange box on top, that would be our super, so they're going to fill that up with honey. And it gets into this one. It's just kind of same process we just went through. Many times we do the bricks on top. You'll see a lot of beekeepers do that just to hold that lid down and kind of keep some weight on that box. And you get a hive full of bees and honey, they're pretty heavy anyway, but if you listen, you'll hear it squeak open. Oh, we missed it, but that's because the bees glued it down. I'm telling you, if somebody could take the propolis and turn it into super glue, it would be better than the Gorilla Glue, and y'all could sell it. You hear it coming unglued? It doesn't come apart easily, and it doesn't come off of you very easily. They glue everything down. And they do that especially in the winter time because it seals off everything, keeps the hive a little bit more secure. Are you getting tired? A lot of bending over after a while gets a little old.
Rough on your back muscles.
Shane always wears boots out to the beehive too. I don't know if you can see his boots. Y'all, I am not dressed to be in the beehive. I'll show you. I have boots and leggings. Don't ever do that in a beehive. Boots are always good. Tucking your pant legs down into your boots is always good. Leggings, that bee sting's going to go right through it and it's going to hurt. Bad. I don't like to get stung. And I don't like it for the bees because it normally kills them. You see, he just pulled that one out. There's not a whole lot going on with it.
I'm just making room.
Yep.
So it can work.
Yep, that's why he does it. See, if you see the hive he set off to the frame he set off to the side, that just makes room in there where he can move around the other frames, get them out easier. It's kind of really cool. And if you notice, if you look, if Shane will turn that face back over towards us, the other side, once he's done looking. So you can tell that, see the dark areas, that's where that hive has been used, that frame has been used the most. The other area that's more yellow, that's pretty well new comb that they've built up, or they haven't used it very much. So the darker that comb is, the older the comb is, the more the bees are using it. And then the lighter is pretty fairly new comb. And that comb is where we get our beeswax. We melt it down. There's a video somewhere of that, but we melt the beeswax down and we process it, take off all the impurities, melt the comb, and it comes into beeswax. We use that for everything. Lip balm, body butter, candles, everything. We beeswax for everything. But many times our beeswax we'll use to put back into the hive. We will coat the frames with them as they're needed. Alright guys, well, I'm going to go ahead and end it. I just wanted to kind of give you an idea what we're doing in Springville today. We got some pretty cool plans for the Springville honey. We're going to have a specialty honey we're hoping this year come from Springville. So we're pretty excited about that. If we can do it this year, if not, maybe next year. But lots of great things happening at Hawkins Joyful Bees. Lots of activity. So in our Springville hives, they are really just booming and doing good. That's a hive gripper that Shane just got. That helps him pick up the hive or the frame gripper. It helps him pick up the frame and look at it. I am horrible at using those. I will drop the frame. I don't have enough strength in my hands to do that. I have to hold it with both hands and pull it out, which is probably why I'm not the beekeeper. All right, y'all. So I want to thank you. I appreciate y'all watching. Like and subscribe to the channel if you get a chance to. If not, just watch the video and enjoy it. But from all of us here at Hawkins Joyful Bees, I do hope you have a fantastic day, a great weekend, and a happy Easter. And remember, Jesus really is alive. He is alive. He didn't stay. Death and hell couldn't hold him. The grave couldn't keep him. He got up. He got up. So happy Easter, everybody. God bless.